Buried cars, messy sidewalks, and traffic tickets for parking on city streets. Just some of the struggles Canadians are trying to manage as we deal with the buildup of snow from the 2026 major winter storms.
Confusing considering this is Canada and this is just how it is every time.
It is confusing. With years of experience living through the worst of winter and big city municipal budgets, why are Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, Halifax, and other Canadian cities still struggling with snow removal? Joining us this morning to help us answer that is Matty Semiatiki. He's the Director of Infrastructure Institute at the University of Toronto. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
Okay, we've done a few of these stories across the country. Cities like Toronto, Halifax, Edmonton have all seemed to struggle with responding to these big storms. Halifax and the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, they're working to commit some more resources to snow removal for their own regions. But how do these delays, first of all, let's talk about the problems. How do the delays in clearing out the city streets and the sidewalks impact people who are living in the cities, just trying to get around?
Well, every Canadian will experience this, that when it snows, especially when it's a big snowfall, it's harder to get around. Some people are snowed in. There's safety issues. Then there's issues about priorities. So is it the bike lanes that get cleared first in some cities or the sidewalks? Is it the roads? Which roads? Is it the main roads? And then the side streets are hard to get in and out of. So really, it just brings our cities and our economies to a grinding halt. And this has economic impacts. It has social impacts. It clearly has safety impacts. Some people, especially with disabilities, can find it hard even to get out the door or maybe get their medication or their medical care. So this is a huge impact on our communities. And it's something that we know every year we get winter, and every year we have these same types of complaints that the snow clearance isn't happening as well as we would expect.
Okay, let's go from there. This is Canada. This is winter. What is hindering a quicker response to clearing out this snow?
So some of this just comes down to resources, that snow clearance obviously costs money, and cities sometimes try to avoid those costs that some winters are not as snowy as others. What we're finding with climate change is that while the weather is getting warmer in general, actually it's getting wilder. And so we're getting bigger snow dumps all in one go. And that's causing issues too about both how to clear the snow and where to put it. Cities like Toronto, for example, have had snow clearance contracts, but not snow removal contracts.
What's the difference?
And then when you get, so the clearance is when they come by with the plow, but the plow just pushes it to the side of the road, and you can see it in this image. You then have the big snow piles on the sides of the street, and they get really messy and ugly as they get dirty. If there's enough snow, that then needs to be taken away, and that's a different process. And often the contracts haven't necessarily been in place to actually remove that snow, and that's causing problems as you get these bigger snowstorms that are just leaving a lot more snow on the ground that needs to be taken away.
Yeah, there's also a difference in the amount of snow. So, in Toronto, they have melters. So when the snow piles get too high, where they take it to the centers where they take the snow, they can melt it down. But, in other regions across the country, they don't have that. Why is there such a disparity?
Again, it comes down to resources and expectations. I was actually reading that in some regions, they dump it out into their lakes or rivers or into the ocean, which then can cause pollution issues. So there's an issue of where you put all this material. I mean, when it rains in the summer, for example, it runs off, and then you have sewer issues. In this case, because of the snow, it just sits there and has to be taken somewhere. And I'm not sure, it's interesting that you'd have contracts that didn't consider this, but that's what's happened. And so something, the weather that happens every year, how we respond to it actually then comes down to contracts and how we contract and what services we're actually contracting for.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up, because the exception here seems to be the city of Montreal. What is it that they are doing differently than other cities across the country?
So Montreal has both clearance and removal contracts, and Montreal has always been renowned for a city that does respond quite well to snow. But you can go online this year and see that people are complaining that the sidewalks haven't been cleared as fast as people would expect, and they're finding it hard to get around. So I would say this year, because of the amount of snow and because it stayed cold for so long, many of our communities are just struggling with exactly how to respond. Some obviously do better than others. One thing we've seen in a lot of our cities is that the machinery is breaking down, that in many cases, a third of the plows will actually be out of service just because the snow is heavy and there's so much of it. So maybe this is an opportunity for innovation, for someone to come up with a new type of snowplow that works with these heavier, larger amounts of snowfall. But really, this is also a maintenance issue. How is this equipment being maintained to make sure it's in a state of good repair for when you have these big snowstorms?
Okay, so when we're talking about budgets and equipment, there seem to be two options: either hire third party or raise taxes so that you beef up your local city response. Is there a third option that I'm missing?
That's exactly it, Anne-Marie. This comes down to money in the end. It's so funny. You start with something that's a natural process, and before you know it, you're into contracts and budgeting. And that's really what's going on here, that cities often don't budget for the full amount, or they hope that there's not going to be a heavy snowfall. But hope is not a strategy and a plan. And what we're seeing is, as the weather gets wilder, we're getting these big snowstorms, and people are saying, like, this is Canada. You expect a snowfall. We pay you to do your job. How is this not happening? And I think snowstorms have really come under the microscope from communities saying you have to do better, and we have to be able to respond much quicker so that our economy and our social inclusion doesn't fall through the floor after these type of events.
Yeah, I mean, we are hearing it from coast to coast to coast, you know, and in some parts of Newfoundland, Labrador, they're dealing with 100 centimeters of snow on the ground, just waiting for it to melt. They've had those 3 storms back to back to back. Maddie Semiatiki, great to talk to you this morning, the director of the Infrastructure Institute at the University of Toronto. Have a good one.
You too.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.